Well, nobody was expecting it, but the Eagles just got some shocking news as Jeff Stoutland has announced that he is stepping down from his job with the Birds. And not only is this devastating for obvious reasons, but it could also change everything for Philadelphia, as drastic changes to the offense are clearly coming, while this news also might affect what ends up happening to one of the Birds' biggest stars. So I'll break that down and explain exactly why Stout is leaving Philadelphia. Plus, more coaching changes are coming to the Birds offense, while we also have another update on the whole A.J. Brown trade situation. But what does it actually mean? Well, let's talk about all of it starting right now. What's up, guys? So just when you thought the Eagles coaching news was dying down a little bit, we got some brand new updates to go over, and it's pretty safe to say that nobody saw this coming. As of course, I'm sure you've all seen it by now, but the Birds just got some absolutely devastating news completely out of nowhere on Wednesday night, as legendary offensive line coach Jeff Stoutland announced that he will be stepping away from coaching with the Eagles in what was an emotional and absolutely heartbreaking message. And if you guys were in my live stream, you know I didn't take the news too well. Guys, what just happened? What just happened? I didn't just work here, I became one of you. Stout out. Dude, that's freaking heartbreaking, dude. Where do we go from here, you know? Like, now we got to get a new offensive line coach. You're not replacing Jeff Stoutland. Like, that's not happening. This is exactly how I feel. It says Jared McCain and Jeff Stoutland in one day. Bad day. This day sucks. I was having a bad day independent from this stuff. This just pissed me off even more. The impact of Stoutland truly cannot be understated for the Eagles. I mean, we're talking about possibly the greatest offensive line coach of all time, one of the greatest coaches in Eagles history, and somebody who was instrumental to the Eagles' 3 Super Bowl runs and 2 victories over these past 8 years. I mean, when you look at his track record, it is absolutely unbelievable. As in his 13 years in Philly, Stout produced 26 Pro Bowl selections, which, in case you can't do the math, that's an average of 2 Pro Bowlers a season, along with 14 All-Pro selections, 10 of which were first-team All-Pros, 6 of those going to Jason Kelce, 2 to Lane Johnson, and then 1 each to Jason Peters and Evan Mathis. Or how about what he did with Jordan Mailata, which was perhaps his most impressive feat of all, as he managed to turn a rugby player from Australia that had never played football before into one of the best offensive tackles in the entire league. I mean, that is just unreal. Not to mention that up until at some point this past season, Stout was also the run game coordinator for Philly, and the Birds have consistently had some of the best rushing attacks in the entire league. So absolutely no doubt, this is a monumental loss for Philly. And, you know, like, there's just no way you go about replacing a guy like that. Like, I'm sure they got other candidates in mind, you know, not saying they can't get another good offensive line coach, but just, he's not going to be Jeff Stoutland. I guess if there is a silver lining, though, it's that, according to a report from Mike Garafolo, among others, Stout is expected to have some sort of involvement with the Eagles organization going forward. However, he also noted that other teams definitely have interest in Stout and will check in on him, and apparently, quote, they've smelled blood in the water for quite some time. While Jeff McClain added that Stout is expected to take some time off from coaching, but will help mentor guys with the Eagles when necessary. So on one hand, again, it's definitely a good thing that Stout is expected to stay with the organization in some capacity, no matter what that looks like, but also, it kind of does make you question why he decided to step down in the first place. And I kind of freaked out on my live stream right after it happened and theorized that the Eagles may have pushed him out, starting with his midseason demotion from run game coordinator, and then with the new changes to the offensive coaching staff being the final nail in the coffin. And I guess in a way, that's not totally 100% wrong, but at the end of the day, this was apparently Stout's decision, as ESPN's Tim McManus wrote an article breaking down the entire situation, saying that Stout was offered a role under new OC Sean Mannion, but he declined, and the fallout began back during this past season when, get this, Nick Sirianni and Kevin Patullo basically went over Stout's head and started implementing new things into the run game. So much so, to the point where Stout felt that he was not consulted enough on the changes, and he no longer desired the title of run game coordinator because he felt that it no longer fit his job description, and that led to him questioning his future with the organization. And then fast forward to the Birds hiring Sean Mannion, and McManus notes that huge offensive changes are coming in Philly, as Mannion's expected to implement a scheme that incorporates systems and concepts from Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan, which that in itself is definitely a good thing, but that's also an offensive scheme that Stout does not have a history with, so he would have had to learn it. He also wouldn't have had full control over the run game, so in turn, Stout has decided that it's time to move on. So there are 2 completely different sides to this in my opinion, and I'll start with the negative, that being that all of this started because Nick Sirianni and the Eagles went over Stout's head. I mean, I've defended Nick more than most, but This right here is just inexcusable. I mean, no denying, like, don't get me wrong, they definitely needed to try and make changes in the run game last year because it wasn't working. And to Nick's credit, the Eagles' rush offense actually got a lot better after he stepped in, as Saquon Barkley had 3 100-yard performances in their last 6 games, as opposed to just 1 in the first 12. But what you absolutely cannot do is go over the head of arguably the best coach on your entire staff. All while you mortgage this entire season on hiring your buddy to be the offensive coordinator, who, by the way, at no point did he lose his play calling responsibilities. Like, this is just not a good look for Nick, especially since he's supposed to be this great culture builder. But then, on the other side of that coin, no secret, drastic changes needed to be made to this Eagles offense after last year, and hearing that Mannion is expected to implement a McVay-Shanahan-esque scheme is a very good thing in my opinion, and a change I very much welcome. So I give Nick and the Eagles credit there for allowing that to happen. It just absolutely sucks that it comes at the expense of losing Jeff Stoutland. And again, that loss cannot be understated, both for what he was able to do on paper in those 13 years in Philly, but also for the impact that he had in the locker room on those guys in the offensive line.
Stout's like one of the most important people to me in my life.
There's only one person in this building who still wanted me, and it's he who I have to thank most for the career I've had. And that's Jeff Stoutland. No one has been more influential or meaningful to my success on the field in my career than Stout. And in my darkest hour as a Philadelphian, Stout was the one who believed in me.
The starting five, we play for Stout because he gives everything to us. The only thing we can do is give everything back.
You know, another father figure.
You gotta wonder how much losing Stout not only hurts the Eagles from an X's and O's standpoint, but also from a morale standpoint on that offensive line. Because again, Mailata said it there, they play for Stout. I mean, he means so much to these guys. He's basically like another father figure, so losing him is just devastating for so many reasons. And then you also have to wonder if Stout's departure could lead to another major loss for the Eagles, as of course, one of the big storylines of this offseason has been whether or not All-Pro and future Hall of Fame tackle Lane Johnson will retire or not after an injury-plagued season. And I've consistently said here on this channel that I don't think Lane is going to retire, and I think he's going to come back because even though he's 35 years old, I still think he has a lot left in the tank once he fully rehabs and recovers from this foot injury. He signed an extension last offseason, and I don't think he wants to go out on an injury. However, now that Stout is gone, maybe Lane doesn't love the idea of coming back to play for anyone else, also in a completely new offensive scheme, and that could cause him to walk away as well. So, I mean, all that's just speculation. We don't know for sure, but I do think it's a very fair question to ask, but we'll worry about that later. For now, again, it just absolutely sucks to lose Jeff Stoutland, and, you know, I want to say thank you to Coach Stout, and you 100% will be missed. On the bright side, though, at least we're 100% definitely not losing Vic Fangio, at least not this offseason, as Jeff McClain officially confirmed on Wednesday night that Fangio will be returning to the Birds next season. So no surprise there. We pretty much already knew that based on E.J. Smith's report, but there it is, official confirmation that Vic will be back, so that's definitely good. But getting back to the offensive coaching staff, even more changes are on the way there, and one actually just happened Thursday morning as the Birds hired former Packers wide receiver coach Ryan Mahaffey as the run game coordinator and tight ends coach, which initially that might seem like a little bit of a weird transition there, but it actually makes sense given that Mahaffey, at just 38 years old, is a former NFL fullback, and he's also coached since 2013, where he's held a number of different positions, including coaching tight ends and offensive linemen. So given that, and the connection with Sean Mannion, this hire actually makes a ton of sense, and again, it also signals even more change, as Nick Sirianni's longtime buddy Jason Michael is now gone. So a serious shift is coming in Philadelphia, and next up is likely the quarterback coach position, as the Eagles interviewed Cardinals passing game coordinator Connor Senger for that job, and Ari Meirov also noted in that report, quote, Senger, just 30, is one of the league's up-and-coming coaches and is also interviewed for the Bears OC job, where he remains a candidate, as well as QB coach roles with the Bills and Packers. Now, first off, I do have to say that the concept of getting Senger as the next QB coach is intriguing and also exciting, because like Meirov said, he's an up-and-coming coach, he's another young guy at just 30 years old, which fits with the theme of the Eagles coaching hires this offseason. He's also played quarterback Division I in college, which is a positive. And looking at what he did with the Cardinals, last year he was able to help veteran backup Jacoby Brissett have a pretty good statistical season, putting up almost 3,400 yards, 23 touchdowns to just 8 picks, a 64.9% completion percentage, and a 94.1 passer rating. Plus, it's also worth noting that Senger was the offensive coordinator for the East team in the Shrine Bowl, while of course now Eagles OC Sean Mannion was the OC for the West team. And reporter Devin Jackson had this to say about him, quote, "I got to observe Connor Senger at the Shrine Bowl a few weeks ago, stood right by him as he relayed plays. I can tell he has a bright mind, was very engaging, and giving QBs a heads up on what to look for. Was the East team offensive coordinator that week too, would be a nice hire for the Eagles." So again, all that is very positive, so the idea of the Eagles bringing him in as the next quarterback's coach, again, is very interesting to me. Again though, I am a little surprised by it because, one, you would think the Birds would like to get some continuity in there for once, because that's another spot where pretty much every single year it's been a new guy at the quarterback's coach position, so that's yet another area where Jalen Hurts has had no stability. And then also, the Birds still had veteran coach Scot Loeffler in that position, who I was under the impression that he did a pretty good job with the Birds last year. Plus, he still is under contract, so who knows what this could mean for him, whether he's fired, whether he's relegated to a different spot, who knows. And also, before last season, Loeffler had extensive coaching experience, obviously, as an offensive-minded play caller, as the head coach of Bowling Green for 6 years, and then even also far predating that, having many different stops in college and even in the NFL. So, again, I really didn't expect the Eagles to move on from him, but I guess to get Mannion more comfortable and to allow him to create the offense that he wants, I understanding him wanting to bring in his own guy at the QB coach spot. Speaking of which, another guy that could be an option for the position is Greg Olson, as Mike Garafolo reported that after finishing last year as the interim OC for the Raiders, Olson could be a candidate for the Eagles' QB coach job, given that he actually coached Sean Mannion in Seattle, and the Birds reportedly do have interest in hiring him for that position. So that makes sense. Obviously, the connection with Mannion's very noteworthy and important. And also, Olson's a guy that has a ton of experience coaching around the league, holding various QB coach and OC positions for over 2 decades, and the top QBs that he's coached include Derek Carr, Geno Smith, and Drew Brees, going all the way back to his days in college at Purdue. So again, he's got a ton of experience, he's got the connection, and he could be another name to watch for this job. Switching over to the other big topic of the day though, we got some more A.J. Brown trade buzz. As with Super Bowl week going on right now, that's obviously got all the NFL world and media gathered in one spot, so people get to talking, and in my last video, I talked about our favorite reporter, Diana Rossini's latest comments.
I have a feeling it's going to resolve itself by AJ no longer being in Philly. Yeah. That's why I think it's going to head. I don't know that for a fact yet. And I wouldn't be surprised if they move him to a place like New England, a team that's playing the Super Bowl. Yeah. It's funny, I was poking around on it before the trade deadline, just in case they did it. Yeah. They get a second rounder.
To which I pushed back on that a little bit because those comments from her did sound pretty speculative, although to be fair, she definitely does have resources, and a second round pick could make sense in theory. I just don't like how late that second rounder would be with the Patriots, but that aside, the latest noise comes from Philly reporter E.J. Smith, who said this on the PHLY podcast.
Being here, talking to people around league circles, it is obvious that there's an expectation that the Eagles will want to move on from him, or that AJ will want to be elsewhere. Being here the last 24 hours, that is something that stands out to me, is how much of the conversation is around A.J. Brown trade speculation. That's not to say that it's a foregone conclusion, but I think we've been around 60-40 on this show. I think that that's probably about fair from being here and having conversations about it.
Look, it's no surprise that there are plenty of rumblings about A.J. Brown going on during Super Bowl week. That's to be expected. However, listen to the way E.J. worded that. He said, quote, "There is an expectation that A.J. Brown could be traded or that he might want out." But an expectation around the league doesn't necessarily mean anything. I mean, it doesn't actually mean that the Eagles front office is working behind the scenes to try to trade A.J. Brown. It doesn't mean that the two sides can't come to a resolution. It more so just seems to be the talk of the town right now around the league. Now, I'm not saying that all that talk is completely baseless either. I mean, I'm sure some of these people have heard things that make it seem like AJ could be traded, and I'm not saying that he won't be either, because again, that's going to be one of the main storylines of this offseason, and I kind of go back and forth on it, but I also want to make the point that these comments from E.J. Smith, at least I don't think, tell us very much about what is actually going on right now. And again, my hope is that with the new offensive coordinator and an offseason for things to cool off, the two sides can work things out and AJ will be back with the Eagles in 2026. But again, we'll see. For now though, how about it officially being 8 years since the Eagles won their first Super Bowl? What a time, man. I mean, the last Super Bowl win was great, but I still think that first Super Bowl win is my all-time favorite sports memory. I mean, it was the greatest feeling. And that was such a special season, a special team, an amazing run in the playoffs, an amazing story with Nick Foles. Like, there was just there was so much magic to that season, to that Super Bowl win. So yeah, I mean, I love looking back on that. So comment down below your favorite memory from that first Super Bowl win, and also just give me your thoughts on the entire Jeff Stoutland situation. What do you think is going to happen with Lane Johnson now? Again, I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on that. And also, if you don't want to miss any more Eagles videos or live streams or shorts coming throughout this entire offseason, then make sure you subscribe and you turn on notifications. Again, you guys are not going to want to miss anything, so make sure you do that right now. And also hit the like button because it really would help me out a ton. Let's see if we can hit 500 likes on this video today, and also hit the hype button because that helps me out a ton as well. And if you do want to watch my full live reaction to the Stout news, you can check this stream out right here. And now with all that being said, that's pretty much all I got for this one, guys. So thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.